In today's fast-paced world, many people live with a constant stream of mental noise, worries about the future, regrets from the past, and an endless inner dialogue that rarely pauses. Despite our material progress, anxiety, stress, and dissatisfaction continue to weigh heavily on countless lives. This is where The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle offers a quiet revolution, a profound invitation to step out of thought and into awareness. This book is not just another self-help guide. It is a spiritual teaching rooted in the idea that the key to liberation, peace, and happiness is found not in the future or the past, but in the present moment, the now. According to Tolle, most suffering arises from resisting what is. True joy and freedom begin when we become fully present and awaken to our consciousness beyond the mind. In this audiobook summary, we'll take a chapter-by-chapter journey through Tolle's timeless teachings. Each chapter contains rich insights, gentle guidance, and practical wisdom for reconnecting with the present. You'll discover how to free yourself from compulsive thinking, heal emotional pain, experience genuine peace, and enter into a deeper, more meaningful way of living. Whether you are new to spiritual practice or seeking a fresh understanding of presence, this series will guide you in applying these principles to your everyday life. So sit back, take a deep breath, and prepare to enter the stillness beneath the surface of thought. This is your invitation to live more fully, more clearly, and more peacefully, right here, in the now. Chapter 1. You are not your mind. From the very first chapter, Eckhart Tolle presents a striking assertion: you are not your mind. This simple yet radical idea forms the foundation of the entire book. Most people live as if their identity is defined by their thoughts. They believe their stream of consciousness, their memories, their fears, and their mental self-talk make up who they are. But Tolle urges us to consider that the mind is only a tool, not the essence of who we truly are. The human mind, Tolle explains, is an incredible instrument, but when it begins to dominate our lives, it creates noise, distraction, and even suffering. We become trapped in a cycle of compulsive thinking, where the mind no longer serves us. Instead, we serve it. This mental noise disconnects us from life as it actually unfolds. We stop experiencing the present moment and start living in a world of psychological time, constantly reliving the past or worrying about the future. Tolle introduces the concept of the watcher, or observer, a deeper part of us that can step back and observe the mind without becoming entangled in it. When we practice awareness, we begin to realize that we are the ones observing the thoughts, not the thoughts themselves. This subtle shift brings a profound sense of peace and clarity. It opens the door to what Tolle calls presence. Another major point in this chapter is the role of ego. The ego is the false self that forms when we identify too closely with our thoughts, roles, achievements, or social status. It constantly seeks validation, control, and security. Yet, it's never satisfied. According to Tolle, the ego thrives on fear and separation, keeping us in a perpetual state of anxiety or comparison. To begin dissolving the ego and reclaiming our true selves, we must learn to become present. We do this not by trying to fix the mind, but by stepping away from it, by simply observing it. This is the beginning of spiritual awakening. It doesn't require years of meditation or religious practice. It begins with one moment of complete attention to the now. Tolle also highlights the power of silence and stillness. He encourages us to find moments where we are not consumed by thought, to experience the gaps between our thoughts as sacred. These brief pauses, often overlooked, are windows into the eternal present. When we learn to inhabit these gaps, we begin to feel our aliveness beyond thinking. This first chapter is a call to awaken. It reminds us that the greatest prison is not our circumstances but our unconscious identification with thought. True freedom begins when we realize, I have thoughts, but I am not my thoughts. Chapter 2. Consciousness, the way out of pain. Pain is not just something caused by physical suffering or unfortunate events. Much of it is self-created and sustained through resistance to what is. This inner pain, often referred to as emotional or psychological pain, accumulates over time when negative emotions are not fully faced, accepted, and let go. Instead of dissipating, these unresolved emotions form a kind of energetic residue in the body, commonly referred to as the pain body. The pain body feeds on negative thinking and emotional drama. It becomes a part of the person's identity, silently influencing their reactions, relationships, and even their sense of self. This pain is not always active, but it can be triggered easily by certain situations, especially those that resonate with past emotional wounds. When triggered, it takes over the mind and behavior, often leading to irrational or harmful responses. The way out of this suffering is not through more thinking, analysis, or resistance, it is through awareness. Becoming conscious of pain as it arises is the first step toward freedom. Instead of identifying with the pain or trying to suppress it, one can simply observe it. This act of observation, without judgment or resistance, allows the pain to surface and dissolve. Consciousness creates space. In that space, healing begins. By shining the light of awareness on the pain body, its grip starts to loosen. Pain thrives in unconsciousness, in denial, in identification with it. But when seen clearly and consciously, it can no longer control. An important realization is that suffering is often perpetuated by living in psychological time, either rehashing the past or fearing the future. These mental projections are fueled by unawareness. Pain lives in time, healing lives in the now. When one brings full attention to the present moment, pain begins to lose its power. In every moment, there is a choice: resist the present and suffer, or accept it and find peace. Acceptance doesn't mean resignation, it means acknowledging what is without inner resistance. This simple shift from mental resistance to presence transforms pain into awareness. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" one can ask, "What is happening inside me right now?" That question redirects the attention inward, not to analyze but to observe. This gentle inward attention breaks the habitual patterns of thought and emotion that cause suffering. Freedom from pain doesn't come by eliminating difficult experiences from life. It comes from relating to those experiences consciously, with presence. In the light of that presence, even the deepest wounds begin to heal. Chapter 3. Moving deeply into the now. To truly enter the power of the present moment, it is not enough to merely understand it intellectually. One must experience it. The present moment is not just a point in time between the past and the future. It is the only place where life actually happens. Everything else is either a memory or a projection. Many people live in time rather than in the now. Their attention is scattered, caught in regrets over the past or anxiety about the future. This mental restlessness keeps them from recognizing the peace and aliveness that are always available in the present. To move more deeply into the now is to reclaim that peace and presence. Being present is not a passive state. It's a dynamic awareness that observes without judging, resists nothing, and accepts everything as it is. This state does not dull the mind, it sharpens it. When one is fully present, tasks are handled with clarity, relationships deepen, and creative energy flows more freely. A common obstacle to this presence is the mind's addiction to thinking. The mind is always looking for something to fix, solve, or improve, often in the future. But no real transformation can occur in the future. Change can only begin in the now. The future is an illusion. The only true access point is this moment. One of the gateways into the present is through body awareness. By bringing attention to the sensations in the body, the feeling of your feet on the floor, your breathing, the warmth of your hands, you anchor yourself in the now. The body is always present, the mind is not. So tuning into the body helps silence mental noise. Another powerful entry into presence is watching the thinker. This means observing your thoughts without becoming entangled in them. You realize, here is a thought, rather than, this is me thinking. That space between you and your thoughts is where presence is born. In that space, you are no longer the thinker, you are the awareness behind the thoughts. This awareness is not something you create. It is already there. You uncover it by withdrawing your identification from the mental stream and resting in simple being. At first, it may appear fleeting, seconds of peace between waves of thought. But with gentle persistence, the silence grows. You begin to recognize that this presence is your true nature. Living deeply in the now does not mean neglecting practical concerns or future planning. Rather, it means doing those things from a place of conscious awareness. Even when you plan, you do so while rooted in the present. The difference is subtle but profound. The invitation of this chapter is simple yet life-changing. Allow the present moment to be enough. Sink into it. Feel it. Live it. Every time you return to the now, you return to yourself, and to the timeless stillness that is always waiting. Chapter 4. Mind Strategies for Avoiding the Now. One of the greatest barriers to spiritual awakening is the mind's compulsive need to avoid the present. While the now is the only moment that truly exists, the mind often resists it by creating distractions rooted in the past and the future. These mental strategies are subtle yet deeply ingrained, and they keep us disconnected from life's essence. At the core of these strategies is a deep-seated identification with thought. The mind seeks to define itself through memories, what has happened, or through projections, what might happen. In doing so, it creates a false sense of self based on personal history or imagined outcomes. This mental noise drowns out the silence of the present moment, which is where real peace and aliveness reside. Many people believe happiness is something to be attained in the future. When I achieve this, they think, then I'll be happy. This strategy of postponing fulfillment is a trap. By constantly reaching for the next moment, one never fully inhabits the present. Life becomes a chase, an endless pursuit where joy is always one step ahead. Another way the mind avoids the now is through resistance to what is. When we argue with reality, complain, criticize, or wish things were different, we create inner conflict. This resistance causes suffering. It is not the situation itself that brings pain, but our mental interpretation and resistance to it. Acceptance, on the other hand, brings peace. Acceptance does not mean passivity, it means clarity. From that space of inner stillness, right action can arise. Worry and anxiety are other strategies the mind uses to escape the now. These emotions are always tied to a future that does not yet exist. By imagining worst-case scenarios or endlessly planning for what may go wrong, we sacrifice our inner peace. The remedy is awareness. By observing the mind and becoming the silent watcher, we take a step back from identification. In that space, fear begins to dissolve. The mind also avoids the now through psychological time. This refers to how we mentally live in either the past or the future, not just practically, but emotionally. Guilt, regret, resentment, grievances, and bitterness all root us in the past. Anxiety, tension, and unease pull us into the future. Both are illusions. The only time we ever truly have is this moment. To free ourselves from these strategies, we must become aware of them. The more we observe the mind, the less power it has. It's not about suppressing thoughts, but seeing them for what they are, just thoughts. As this awareness deepens, the grip of the mind loosens, and a deeper presence begins to emerge. Ultimately, this chapter invites us to step out of compulsive thinking and into conscious presence. The mind may resist, but awareness gently persists. With practice, we begin to live not from mental patterns but from the stillness of being. And in that stillness, life unfolds with greater ease, clarity, and peace. Chapter 5. The State of Presence. This chapter explores what it truly means to be in the state of presence, a dimension of consciousness that transcends the compulsive activity of the mind. Presence is not something to be achieved through effort or thought. Rather, it is a natural state that arises when one becomes fully aware of the present moment. It is the essence of being, unmarred by past regrets or future anxieties. The state of presence is marked by a sense of deep peace, aliveness, and clarity. When you are present, you are not lost in your thoughts, judgments, or mental projections. You are simply here. In this state, the mind is no longer dominating your awareness. Instead, you experience a sense of inner stillness, and even the simplest things, like a flower, a breeze, or your own breath, can be deeply meaningful. Ego cannot survive in the now. The ego thrives on identification with thought, which is always either past or future-oriented. But presence cuts through this identification. It reveals that you are not your thoughts, but the awareness behind them. This realization weakens the ego's grip and allows your true self, the formless, observing consciousness, to shine through. Tolle emphasizes that presence is not an abstract idea, it is accessible to everyone, at any moment. But it must be experienced, not merely understood intellectually. You do not do presence, you allow it. That means becoming aware of what is happening within and around you without resisting or judging it. This awareness acts like a doorway to a deeper reality. Many people, however, confuse presence with passivity. But being present doesn't mean you stop acting or making decisions. Instead, it means that your actions are no longer driven by fear, ego, or emotional reactivity. They come from a place of alignment with the moment, a quiet wisdom that often speaks more clearly than the busy mind ever could. When you are present, you don't need to label every experience, define every moment, or evaluate everything through the lens of personal narrative. Instead, you allow things to be as they are. Paradoxically, this acceptance creates space for transformation. You are no longer fighting reality, and so the present becomes a place of great power and peace. Presence also deepens your connection to others. When you are truly present with someone, without judgment or mental distraction, a profound sense of intimacy and authenticity arises. Relationships become less about need and more about shared being. You no longer use others to complete your sense of self, you meet them as you are. The more time you spend in presence, the more you begin to see that it is not something you enter, it is what you are. The mind and emotions may fluctuate, but presence is the unchanging space in which all experiences arise. Anchoring yourself in that space, even for brief moments, gradually transforms your life from the inside out. Chapter 6. The Inner Body. Chapter 6 introduces a powerful and transformative practice, connecting with the inner body as a means of anchoring oneself in the present moment. The inner body, as described in this chapter, is not merely the physical structure made of bones and tissues. Rather, it is the subtle field of aliveness, the energy presence within, that underlies your physical form. Becoming aware of this energy connects you directly to the now and serves as a gateway to spiritual awakening. The core idea here is that while the mind is always reaching into the past or projecting into the future, the body exists only in the present. Therefore, by shifting attention from thought to the felt sense of the inner body, one becomes instantly grounded in presence. This act interrupts the incessant mental noise and creates space for peace, clarity, and stillness. This inner energy field can be experienced through gentle attention. You might start with feeling the aliveness in your hands, then extend awareness to the arms, legs, chest, and eventually the entire body. The practice isn't about mentally analyzing or visualizing the body but feeling the subtle energy that animates it from within. When you stay with this awareness, a quiet alertness arises, a sense of being that is not tied to thought or emotion. One of the key benefits of inner body awareness is its protective effect. When you're rooted in the inner body, you're less vulnerable to negativity from others or from your own mind. It creates a kind of spiritual immune system. External circumstances may still unfold, but you remain centered and less reactive. This subtle energy presence acts as a shield, making you less likely to be pulled into drama, judgment, or fear. The practice of staying connected to the inner body also cultivates greater vitality and health. Energy flows more freely when there is conscious presence. Stress is reduced. Tension held in the body begins to dissolve. And even though these effects are subtle, over time they can profoundly influence emotional balance and physical well-being. Importantly, this connection is not a one-time event but an ongoing practice. Tuning into the inner body becomes a refuge from the turbulence of life. You don't have to escape to a quiet retreat or wait for the perfect conditions. This refuge is always available. Even in the midst of activity, you can stay partially anchored in the body while performing daily tasks, listening to others, or handling responsibilities. Tolle encourages readers to treat the inner body as a bridge between form and formlessness. In becoming aware of the invisible life within, you are sensing the essence of who you truly are, consciousness itself. This realization dissolves identification with the body, the ego, and the mind. You begin to experience yourself not as a thing or a thinker, but as the silent, eternal awareness that gives rise to thought, emotion, and life. In essence, Chapter 6 teaches that your inner body is not an object of focus but a doorway to the timeless dimension of being. Living from that space is not only liberating, it is transformative. Chapter 7. Portals into the Unmanifested. In Chapter 7, Portals into the Unmanifested, the book introduces the idea of transcending the visible, physical world, the manifested, to connect with the deeper, eternal realm known as the unmanifested. This unmanifested is described as the eternal presence, the source of all life, and the stillness behind all forms. While the manifested world consists of everything we see and experience, our thoughts, emotions, bodies, and surroundings, the unmanifested is pure consciousness, formless, timeless, and beyond the grasp of the thinking mind. The chapter emphasizes that contact with the unmanifested brings deep peace. It is not something that can be understood intellectually or accessed through effort. Rather, it is experienced through stillness, presence, and surrender. The author presents several portals that allow entry into this sacred dimension. These portals are not physical gateways but inner experiences that help one go beyond the mental and physical realm into pure awareness. One of the most powerful portals is inner body awareness, which was introduced in Chapter 6. When you bring attention to the subtle energy field within your body, you quiet the mind and shift into the now. This presence allows a glimpse into the unmanifested. It becomes a doorway to the stillness and depth that lies beyond surface experience. Another portal is deep, dreamless sleep. Though we're unconscious during this state, it represents a return to pure being without ego or thought. Similarly, silence and space are also emphasized. Silence is more than the absence of sound, it's a stillness pregnant with presence. Paying attention to silence between words or the stillness surrounding sound can lead to a deeper connection with what is formless and eternal. Likewise, becoming aware of the space between objects, or the pause between breaths helps shift perception from form to formlessness. Surrender is another key portal. When you fully accept what is, without resistance, judgment, or need to change it, you stop identifying with your mind and ego. This surrender allows you to drop into the deeper reality of being. It doesn't mean giving up or being passive, but rather a total inner acceptance of the present moment. The chapter also warns against the ego's attempts to grasp the unmanifested as a concept. The mind, by nature, deals with form and cannot comprehend the formless. Thus, trying to intellectually understand or explain the unmanifested only creates more mental noise. Instead, one must experience it directly by becoming intensely present and alert. Importantly, regular connection with the unmanifested is not a means of escaping life but a way of enriching it. When you access the stillness within, you bring a quality of peace and awareness into everything you do. Daily life becomes infused with meaning, compassion, and clarity. You are no longer just reacting to life, you are consciously living it from a place of deep presence. In summary, Chapter 7 invites the reader to look beyond the surface of reality. By accessing portals such as inner body awareness, silence, and surrender, you open the way to experience the timeless essence of who you are, pure consciousness beyond form. Chapter 8. Enlightened Relationships. In Chapter 8, the book shifts its focus from the inner self to the realm of interpersonal connection. It explores how the principles of presence and stillness, the core of living in the now, can be applied to human relationships, particularly intimate ones. The chapter proposes that relationships often become battlegrounds for egoic needs and unconscious patterns, but they can also become powerful vehicles for spiritual awakening when approached with awareness. The chapter begins by addressing the common dysfunction in many relationships, the pursuit of completion through another person. When individuals believe they are incomplete, they often seek salvation in a partner. This belief gives rise to temporary euphoria, mistaken as love, but as time passes, unmet expectations, emotional pain, and ego clashes surface. The chapter explains that what is often labeled as falling in love is not love in its truest form, but rather ego-driven attachment and projection. The root of most relationship conflict is said to lie in unconscious identification with the pain body, accumulated emotional pain from past experiences. When two people with unrecognized pain bodies interact, they may trigger each other, leading to arguments, withdrawal, and emotional turbulence. In such states, genuine communication becomes difficult. This is not a sign of a failed relationship but rather an opportunity, the pain brought to the surface can serve as a portal into presence if met with awareness. The book suggests that true love is not a fluctuating emotion but a deep state of being. In the presence of awareness, love is not something one feels from someone else, but a reflection of one's own connection to the now. Relationships, when rooted in presence, cease to be about mutual need and become about shared being. In such relationships, conflict diminishes because the need to control or blame dissolves. Communication becomes clearer, gentler, and more authentic. The chapter emphasizes the importance of non-reactivity in maintaining an enlightened relationship. Reacting emotionally to another's pain body only strengthens the cycle of unconsciousness. Instead, the practice of remaining present during moments of tension or disagreement allows one to disengage from egoic behavior. One partner's awareness can act as an anchor, helping to neutralize the energy of the pain body in both individuals. In this way, relationships become a mirror for inner growth. Rather than seeking to fix or change the other person, the conscious individual uses each interaction as an opportunity to deepen their own presence. The question shifts from, "How can I make this relationship work?" to, "How can I bring more awareness to this relationship?" The chapter also speaks about solitude, not as loneliness but as fullness in being alone. True aloneness, it explains, is not the absence of others but the absence of inner noise. Only when one is at peace alone can one enter a relationship without the urge to possess or be possessed. Thus, solitude and relationship are not opposites, but complementary states of presence. In summary, enlightened relationships offers a vision of human connection that transcends dependency, emotional volatility, and ego-driven expectations. Relationships are reimagined as sacred spaces for awakening, where love emerges naturally from presence, not from clinging or control. The path to such relationships begins not with changing the other but with bringing awareness to one's own patterns and choosing to meet each moment without judgment or resistance. As the discussion on relationships comes to a close, the book gently leads into a broader inquiry: how one's conscious presence not only transforms personal life but also contributes to the collective awakening of humanity. Chapter 9. Beyond happiness and unhappiness there is peace. The narrative now moves deeper into the understanding of peace, not as a fleeting emotion but as an enduring state that lies beyond the opposites of happiness and unhappiness. The core message is that true peace does not depend on external conditions, achievements, or life circumstances. Instead, it arises from a state of presence that is unaffected by mental labeling or emotional turbulence. Human beings are often conditioned to chase happiness, as though it were a destination. This pursuit typically leads to brief moments of satisfaction, followed by dissatisfaction, boredom, or new cravings. The pendulum of life swings between pleasure and pain, gain and loss, and joy and sorrow. However, beneath these shifting experiences lies a deeper stillness, an inner peace that is always accessible when one stops identifying with the mind. Much of what is called happiness is rooted in ego satisfaction, accomplishing a goal, acquiring possessions, receiving praise, or enjoying pleasant experiences. These moments, while enjoyable, are temporary and fragile because they are tied to circumstances that inevitably change. When those circumstances reverse, when failure replaces success, or loss follows gain, what was once happiness quickly becomes its opposite. The text points to a fundamental truth: both happiness and unhappiness are states that arise from mental interpretation. What one calls a problem or a misfortune is often just a judgment layered onto the present moment. In contrast, peace comes when one no longer resists the moment as it is. Acceptance does not mean passive resignation. It means being internally aligned with reality, rather than waging a mental battle against it. When inner stillness becomes one's resting place, peace is no longer dependent on what happens externally. This does not eliminate pain, discomfort, or difficult circumstances, but it removes the layer of psychological suffering that usually accompanies them. The absence of inner resistance brings clarity and spaciousness, allowing a person to respond to life with wisdom instead of habitual reaction. This inner dimension of stillness is not something that needs to be attained in the future. It is always present, waiting beneath the noise of thought and emotion. Accessing it requires nothing more than bringing one's attention fully into the now. When attention leaves the past and future and rests fully in the present, the mind loses its grip, and awareness takes its place. The ego, which thrives on identification with roles, stories, and opinions, finds this presence threatening because it cannot survive without drama. But once the ego is observed rather than obeyed, its influence begins to fade. In its place arises a spacious awareness that is not reactive but deeply alert, calm, and connected. From this space, peace is no longer an idea but a lived reality. This peace transcends the usual dichotomies of positive and negative, winning and losing, being right or wrong. It is not emotional in nature. It does not depend on feeling good. Instead, it is the silent background out of which all experience arises. One may still experience joy or sadness, comfort or discomfort, but these states pass through without destabilizing the underlying calm. The book emphasizes that this form of peace is more valuable than anything the world can offer. It is not the result of controlling life but of surrendering to it. In relinquishing the demand for life to be a certain way, one finds a freedom that is unshakable. Even when outer conditions remain unchanged, the inner field is transformed. In this view, peace is not a reward to be earned but the natural outcome of awareness freed from identification. It is available not someday, but now, and it begins with the simple act of allowing this moment to be as it is. Chapter 10: The Meaning of Surrender. The concept of surrender, as explored in this final chapter, is not about giving up in weakness, nor is it about resignation to fate. Instead, surrender is presented as an inner shift, a conscious decision to stop resisting what is. It is a deep acceptance of the present moment, free from judgment, struggle, or mental commentary. Surrender begins with recognizing the difference between outer circumstances and inner resistance. While one may not always control external situations, the inner stance, the response to those situations, is within one's power. Resistance often takes the form of mental narratives, complaining, blaming, wishing things were different. Surrender means dropping this resistance and allowing life to unfold without inner opposition. Importantly, surrender is not passivity. It does not mean ceasing all action or failing to stand up for oneself when necessary. Rather, it is a state of non-resistance that allows for conscious action instead of reaction. In surrender, action becomes more intelligent and aligned because it arises from a place of clarity, not compulsion or fear. Even when change is necessary, the surrendered person acts from peace, not inner turmoil. The chapter also distinguishes between temporary and complete surrender. Temporary surrender might arise in moments of deep suffering, when there is no choice but to let go. In such moments, people often experience unexpected peace. Complete surrender, however, is ongoing. It is a state of living in alignment with the flow of life, embracing each moment as it is, even when it brings discomfort or uncertainty. Surrender also requires the letting go of mental labels. Often, people judge situations as bad or wrong, and carry emotional weight because of these interpretations. Through surrender, those labels fall away, and what remains is simply the experience itself, either good nor bad, just what is. This neutral space allows for a deeper intelligence to guide one's responses. The chapter emphasizes that true surrender connects one with something greater than the personal self. In releasing resistance, one taps into a deeper dimension of being, something stable, quiet, and vast. This presence is not bound by the ego's need for control. It is in surrender that the individual self gives way to a deeper unity with life itself. Trust plays a vital role in surrender. It requires trust that life, even in its unpredictability, carries a deeper order that the mind cannot fully grasp. By releasing the need to mentally dominate every experience, one opens to this larger wisdom. There is no need to know all outcomes or control all variables. Peace emerges through trust and presence. Ultimately, surrender is the path to inner freedom. It does not free one from all pain or challenge, but it dissolves the added layer of suffering created by resistance. It offers relief from the burden of mental struggle and allows a person to move through life with more grace, humility, and awareness. In surrender, the now is no longer an obstacle to overcome, but the only place where true peace and power can be found. Conclusion: embracing the power of now. The journey through the power of now reveals a profound and life-altering truth. That peace, clarity, and true fulfillment are not found in the endless pursuit of future goals or in the unresolved burdens of the past. Instead, they reside in the simplicity and stillness of the present moment. The now is not just a fleeting point in time, it is the gateway to a deeper dimension of life, a space where awareness blossoms, where the mind quiets, and where the self reconnects with being. Embracing the present is not always easy. The mind is conditioned to seek, to compare, to judge, and to dwell on stories that create resistance. But with gentle awareness and consistent practice, anyone can begin to disidentify from the mind and step into the spaciousness of the now. This shift does not require perfection, it requires presence. By surrendering to the moment, one does not become passive or indifferent. Instead, life is approached with clarity, intention, and depth. Actions become more meaningful because they arise from stillness, not fear. Relationships are transformed, not by control or expectation, but by genuine presence and listening. Above all, the power of now invites each person to recognize that the answers they seek are not out there, but already within. The peace, love, and strength longed for are accessible, not in some distant future, but in this very breath, this very moment. To live in the now is to live fully. It is to awaken from the trance of time and return to the eternal presence that has always been there, quiet, unwavering, and free. In choosing the now, you choose life itself. The invitation is open. The time is not tomorrow. The time is now. If this summary sparks something deep within you, don't let it fade. Take the first step toward lasting inner peace by practicing presence in your everyday life. Revisit this audio whenever you feel overwhelmed, and let it guide you back to stillness. Subscribe for more life-changing audiobook summaries that inspire transformation from the inside out. Like if you felt the power of presence. Comment and share, what does living in the now mean to you? Your journey to conscious living has already begun. Stay present. Stay awakened. And remember, the only moment that truly matters is now.